Welcome to Focus on FinTech. In Season 1, we talked FinTech basics on a ferry, robo-advising in New Jersey, the future of FinTech at a fancy party, took a history lesson on the High Line, and learned about blockchain on the beach. Did you miss us?
BrightTALK Studios presents a BrightTALK original series featuring Eric Hazard in The Life Cycle of a FinTech.
In this new 3-part series, we will explore the life cycle of a FinTech. First, the inception or conception of an idea, the early stages of funding, and what does a fledgling FinTech need to thrive? Does it take a lot of money? Is it luck? We'll find out. Episode 2, we'll take our baby to the incubator, explore the school of funding, and what it's going to take to let mommy and daddy VC give you the credit card. In Episode 3, we'll focus on what it means to succeed and sustain, so stick around to see who survives in the wild. The idea for a business or new technology can come from anywhere, but the question is it a good idea? What makes a good FinTech idea anyway? And how do you go from thinking about it in the shower to actually getting someone to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Tell me about your journey that started in medical device sales and is today in FinTech.
I was working in the medical device industry. I started my career in sales, and I was trained to actually go into the OR and work with surgeons on a really technical implant. I was called by some surgeons I'd worked with for a long time, and they said they had a patient being transferred. This was an emergency case. The patient didn't look good, but the family wanted them to do whatever they could to try and save him. So we did this procedure, and it looked really good, and we thought that we had stopped the bleeding. And just as the surgeons were closing up the patient, the anesthesiologist literally leans over the curtain to us and said, pressure's dropping. And what that means is that there was a leak and we were losing the patient. And nothing that we could do could stop that bleeding. And I was standing right at that patient's left shoulder when they called his time of death. So a few weeks later, I was talking with the surgeons and we were recapping, could we have done something differently? And it was during that conversation I said, well, how often do you also talk to the family about their risks and let them know? And they looked at me like I literally had 3 eyes and said, well, we don't. They're not our patient. So that I would say was kind of that first starting trigger in my mind of what eventually became Genevity, because this was a disease that wasn't curable, but was highly treatable. Nobody should show up at the ER and lose their life because of this disease when it could have been caught and treated.
So tell me a little bit about how you started your entrepreneurial career.
Like most entrepreneurs, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. So the transformative moment for me, I was doing a project for a big bank in their branches. And the branch staff kept talking about the people they didn't want to serve that was in their lobbies, people cashing checks, people that wouldn't be approved for credit. And I was like, light bulb went off, okay, we got a business opportunity here.
What makes a good FinTech idea?
Make sure it's something that you're really passionate about and that has a broad mission, an important mission that you can get out of bed every morning and get behind, and that you can get other people to buy into. Beyond just being positive for the participants, try and make it something that actually helps people even who aren't participating in the business and helps the broader ecosystem.
Of all the billions of cells and energy in the universe, it seems almost impossible that the cosmic forces align to create a near-perfect life.
Right, okay. So we have our idea, but it can disappear back into wherever ideas live, unless the right environment exists.
Okay, so you've talked about the FinTech idea, but what about environment?
An idea is one piece of the puzzle. The environment has to be right too, and by environment what I mean is that the pieces have to be there. The timing has to be right. There has to be some sort of prior art to sort of build off of, and for us those were like the lending clubs and the Prospers of the world. The legal environment needs to be right. Like for us, for Peer Street, that was the Jobs Act had passed, and all of a sudden it made what we were trying to do suddenly like not only legal but actually viable. For me as an entrepreneur, one of the things that I get excited about is looking at industries where technology hasn't yet really transformed them.
2/3 of the U.S. that has a low or damaged credit score. Half of the U.S. now is living largely paycheck to paycheck with less than $400 in savings. There's a huge opportunity for technology to provide new innovative ways and make a big impact in the lives of millions and millions of Americans and need better solutions. That was sort of the beginning of what became a lifelong obsession about providing better financial services products for underserved customers.
While I was living over in Singapore, that it really dawned on me that the true intersection wasn't just to be able to help families and people understand how these risks and health can impact them. It was showing them the financial impact if they chose to wait. And then as we were diving more into it, realizing that there truly was a business here that could impact people in probably the best way, which is helping make sure they don't run out of money in retirement due to unforeseen planning or for cost.
The market has evolved over the last 10 years where there's quite a bit of disruption with financial services and all across the board. So it could be anything like small business lending, which is where we focus. It could be wealth management, it could be payments, it could be mortgage, it could be really you name it. Each different part of the financial services industry, I think, is beginning to get disrupted with technology companies coming in to ultimately serve customer needs better.
So you really need to become very much aware of where you stand in this marketplace so that you can basically deliver the type of value and the type of a conversation that's going to open up doors for you and allow you to be successful.
There comes a time during pregnancy when parents realize this is real and this is actually going to happen. And there also comes a time in a startup where a big leap has to be made. Someone has to believe in the idea and the environment enough to lay out some serious cash. And usually, that someone is you.
Okay, you had a great idea, and you saw a real need for how you can bring health data to combine with people's wealth information. So now what? What was the next step for you?
When I realized that this was something that I absolutely needed to do and see it through, I had to take first that leap of faith and believe that we could pull it off and leave a corporate job with some really great golden handcuffs.
I actually left a great job at Google that I'd been doing for about 10 years there to do this business.
And so then you have to really decide, how are you going to start to fund it?
Launching any of these enterprises will probably take and consume or need a lot more money than you would expect.
For pre-revenue companies, it is difficult to secure loans. Typically what we see when we have startups come to us, we would encourage them to get a loan from, if they own their house, get a second mortgage on their house and borrow money with a home equity line of credit, something like that.
I decided to sell my house to start this business. That is not a smart move by any stretch of the imagination.
Ask their friends and family for money, either in the form of debt or equity in the business.
So at first I bootstrapped the company, so paying for it out of my own pocket before going and raising some money from friends and family. And I'll tell you, that was probably, out of all the decisions I've had to make, the hardest. Because it's great that you have people who are close to you that believe in you, but the sleepless nights that you get when something goes wrong, or you have a doubt, or you have a bad day, when you think that it's somebody very close to you, that it could be impacting them.
Interestingly, my first company that I started, two of my friends that I started the business with, we all put the business on our credit cards, and we were having a hard time affording our rent. But there are folks out there that will take a bet on an entrepreneur if they like the management team and the entrepreneur themselves, and they believe in them, and they also believe in the problem that they're solving.
At this point, you've sacrificed so much. You've put all your blood, sweat, tears, credit, assets, and relationships on the line. And if you're still kicking, then it's time. It's time for